My wife announced our divorce on Instagram before telling me. So I let her go public, then watch karma do the same to her. I was in the middle of a morning meeting when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications kept rolling in. Texts, tags, mentions. At first, I thought it was a birthday prank or some viral meme. But when I opened Instagram, I froze. Pinned at the top of my feed, a picture of my wife, smiling, holding a glass of champagne. The caption read, "New beginnings. Sometimes love stories end, and that's okay. Excited to start this next chapter. Officially single." Below it, hundreds of likes, dozens of comments, hearts, crying emojis, words like, "You deserve better," and "proud of you for choosing yourself." And just like that, I learned I was getting divorced from a social media post. For a few seconds, I couldn't even breathe. My first instinct was denial. This had to be a joke, right? But the pit in my stomach told me it wasn't. My phone kept vibrating. My sister texted, "Ethan, what's going on? Are you guys okay?" My boss, who followed her online, peeked into my office, looking uneasy. "Take the rest of the day off, man. Handle whatever this is." I didn't even have words. Just a dull ringing in my ears. When I got home, she was gone. Half her closet emptied, her jewelry drawer missing, a note left on the counter that simply read, "Didn't know how else to do this. Please don't call me. I need space." I laughed, a broken, bitter laugh. Didn't know how else to do this? We'd been married 6 years. We'd built a life together. And she ended it with a caption and a few hashtags. What stung more was the performance, the carefully edited photo, the polished words, the public sympathy. She'd crafted her own narrative before I even knew there was one. And now, I was the villain in a story I didn't write. In the days that followed, the fallout was brutal. My phone became a battlefield of DMs from curious coworkers, pitying friends, and strangers eager to dissect my private life. People stopped looking me in the eye. Even at the grocery store, I could feel whispers trailing behind me. Her post went semi-viral in our town, shared by mutual friends, even featured on a local gossip page. Modern love. Woman chooses herself after leaving toxic marriage. Toxic? That word burned. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, to tell everyone the truth, that I wasn't abusive, controlling, or cold. I was loyal. I loved her through her anxiety, her career changes, and her doubts. But she rewrote the ending, and in her version, I was the obstacle, not the partner. Nights were the worst. I'd scroll through her comments, watching people cheer for her freedom, while I sat in the wreckage of a home we built. I replayed every argument, every quiet dinner, every, "I'm just tired," she whispered before turning away. The signs were there, but I never thought she'd weaponize the story itself. A week later, I saw a new post, her smiling at a wine bar with her coworker, Daniel. The caption, "When someone reminds you what real love feels like." That's when the truth hit me. She hadn't left for space. She'd left for someone else. And announcing our divorce online? That wasn't cowardice. It was control. She got to tell the world her truth first, before I could even process mine. But I wasn't going to let her write the final chapter. That night, I deleted every shared photo, packed what was left of my dignity, and called my lawyer. This wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about reclaiming my name, my peace, and my story. She'd made our ending public. Now, I'd make my comeback unforgettable. After that night, I made myself one promise. I wouldn't beg for explanations from someone who'd chosen public applause over private honesty. I went silent. No response posts. Just silence. And that silence unnerved her. The first week after she left, I focused on logistics. Lawyer, separation papers, asset division, all clinical, clean, and controlled. My attorney, a steady woman named Caroline, looked up from her notes one morning and said, "Ethan, I've seen a lot of ugly divorces. But this one, the way she handled it online, that's not about closure. That's about narrative control." She was right. My wife, ex-wife, soon enough, wasn't just leaving. She was curating her exit. Every post was part of a brand. Strong woman reclaiming her voice. Except her voice was built on lies. The coworker she'd left me for, Daniel, started appearing in more of her posts. Date nights. Weekend getaways. All smiles. To everyone else, they looked like a fairy tale. To me, they looked like two people desperate to justify a betrayal. But I wasn't sitting idle. I started documenting old messages, her emails, the therapy notes where she admitted she'd been emotionally detached long before she claimed toxicity. I didn't do it for vengeance. I did it for peace, so when the noise got loud, I'd have the truth to lean on. And then something unexpected happened. A friend of hers, someone she'd blocked me from contacting, reached out quietly. "Ethan, she's been telling people you cheated. That's how she's justifying the quick move on. But we know it's not true. She's rewriting everything." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not in anger, in clarity. If she wanted to play in public, I'd show her what honesty looked like. A month after her viral freedom post, I shared my own. A single photo, me sitting on the porch with my dog, coffee in hand. The caption read, "When your story gets told without you, remember, truth doesn't need hashtags. It just needs time. No names, no callouts, just peace." But people read between the lines. Within hours, her followers flooded the comments, not attacking, just questioning. Wait, what actually happened? Didn't they split last month? This doesn't add up. The narrative she'd built began to crack. She posted a flustered story. "Please respect my privacy." Privacy. The same thing she'd stolen from me when she turned my heartbreak into engagement bait. Then came karma. Daniel's ex-wife commented on one of their posts, a single line. Funny how he said the same thing to me last year. The illusion shattered. People began unfollowing. The support turned skeptical. She'd wanted to be a symbol of strength. Now she looked like a headline in someone else's cautionary tale. As for me, I started rebuilding, offline. Therapy. Running. A new job opportunity that took me to Seattle, away from the noise. Slowly, I remembered what it felt like to exist without waiting for the next blow. Months later, I ran into an old friend at a cafe. She hesitated before saying, "You know, everyone saw what you did. You didn't need to defend yourself. People talk. They figured it out." That hit me harder than any apology ever could. The truth had surfaced on its own, without me screaming it from rooftops. That night, I deleted her from every feed. It's strange how healing rarely comes with fireworks. Sometimes it's just quiet acceptance, the realization that not every battle needs an audience. But one morning, as I scrolled through my messages, I saw her name pop up. A short, trembling paragraph. I shouldn't have done it that way. I thought I was making it easier. I just wanted attention. I missed the version of me I was with you. I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but closure. She wasn't apologizing for the pain. She was mourning the comfort she'd thrown away. I turned off my phone, walked outside, and watched the sunrise. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like something was ending. It felt like something was beginning. She'd gone viral for announcing our divorce. I found peace by never announcing my healing. In a world obsessed with telling stories online, I learned the power of keeping mine sacred. By the time autumn rolled in, I wasn't checking her page anymore. I'd stopped caring about likes, comments, or curated smiles. My mornings began with quiet, black coffee, sunrise over the skyline, and peace I hadn't felt in years. I didn't realize how much noise she'd brought into my life until it was gone. Every day used to be about managing appearances, being the supportive husband, the stable one. Now it was just me. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, I got a message request from someone I didn't recognize, a woman named Claire. Her first line hit like a familiar echo. "I think we've both been lied to." Claire was Daniel's ex-wife. She'd been watching the same fairy tale unfold online, except she knew the truth, just like I did. Turns out, Daniel had left her the same way my ex left me. Suddenly, publicly, and with his self-love narrative to soften the blow. She sent screenshots, overlapping timelines, matching captions, recycled phrases. The betrayal wasn't unique. It was rehearsed. They hadn't just rewritten my story, they copied it. I didn't post anything, didn't gloat. But word got out. Someone on a gossip thread pieced it together. Timelines, tags, even geolocations. Suddenly, her empowerment journey didn't look inspiring. It looked manufactured. Comments turned. "Wait, wasn't he married last year? So this whole thing was fake." This is embarrassing. Her page went dark soon after. She started deleting posts, turning off comments. The same audience she'd used to humiliate me had become her undoing. That's the thing about performing pain. Eventually, someone notices the script. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, just a strange kind of justice. Karma hadn't arrived with vengeance. It came quietly, exposing truth through time. Meanwhile, I've been busy building something real, a new job, new friends, even a small photography hobby I'd never had time for before. I started documenting sunrises, city streets, and little moments that didn't need applause. One morning, I got invited to speak at a community event about mental health and privacy in the digital age. The organizer had read my quiet caption months ago, the one about truth needing time, and wanted me to share my story. Standing there, I looked out at the crowd, strangers, not followers, and realized how far I'd come. I talked about boundaries, silence, and the danger of letting validation dictate value. I didn't mention her name once. I didn't have to. Afterwards, someone came up and said, "It's rare to hear a story like this without bitterness. You must have loved her deeply." I smiled. I did. And that's why I had to let her go quietly. That night, I posted one final message. Closure doesn't come from proving someone wrong. It comes from remembering who you were before they broke you. No hashtags. No hidden subtext. Just truth. She saw it. I know she did. But there was nothing left to say. No apology could rewrite what had already been made public. The same platform that had destroyed my peace had become proof of my growth. I didn't need to announce the end of my pain. I'd already started living beyond it. And in a world obsessed with being seen, I finally learned. Peace is the loudest silence there is. It had been a year since the post that ended everything. A year since I found out my marriage was over through a screen. And yet, standing there on a crisp autumn morning, breathing air that didn't carry her name, I felt something I never thought I'd feel again: gratitude. Not the kind you post about. The quiet kind. The one that sits deep in your chest when you realize the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the thing that freed you. For months, I told myself closure would come the day she apologized. The day she admitted what she'd done. But the truth? Closure had nothing to do with her. It came the day I stopped waiting. Life had started blooming again, almost quietly. I'd moved to Seattle. New apartment. New job. A few trusted friends. People who didn't know me as the guy from that viral breakup. I didn't talk about her anymore. She was no longer the center of my story. But one evening, as I was leaving work, I saw a familiar face across the street. Her. No filters. No followers. Just her, standing under the streetlight, coat pulled tight against the cold. She looked smaller. The glow that used to surround her, the one she curated online, was gone. Our eyes met. She gave a faint, nervous smile. I didn't look away. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or pity. Just distance. She crossed the street halfway, hesitated, then stopped. "You look good," she said softly. I nodded. "So do you." We stood there, silent, surrounded by city noise. The kind of silence that used to suffocate us. Now, it just felt final. She took a breath. "I never thought it would end like that. I just didn't know how to say it." I smiled. "You didn't have to say anything. The way you did it said enough." Her eyes filled with something that looked like regret. Not because she missed me, but because she finally saw what she'd lost. The version of herself that was honest, grounded, loved. We didn't talk long. No dramatic confessions. No cinematic closure. Just two people who'd once shared everything, now strangers with a shared past. As she turned to leave, I felt it, the last thread snap. The story that began with a post finally ended with silence. That night, I walked home under the city lights, thinking about how strange healing is. You don't realize you've arrived until you look back and see how far you've walked. Later, I sat by the window, opened my journal, and wrote one sentence. "Thank you for teaching me how to let go." No bitterness. No sorrow. Just peace. She thought she'd erase me by going public. But all she really did was set me free to rebuild in private. The man she left behind was broken. Sometimes karma isn't punishment. It's perspective. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's living a life they no longer recognize. As I closed my journal, I smiled, not at her memory, but at my own resilience. The story was never about losing her. It was about finding me. 16 months. That's how long it had been since my world imploded, since a single Instagram caption shattered everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty. Back then, I'd thought my story ended with her post that I was the discarded chapter in someone else's narrative. But standing here now, on stage in front of a quiet room filled with strangers, I realized something powerful. My story had only just begun. It started small. A friend from therapy invited me to speak at a local support group, not as a victim, but as someone who'd survived public betrayal and rebuilt. I hesitated. I wasn't a motivational speaker. I was just a guy who'd learned the hard way what it means to lose yourself and slowly piece the fragments back together. But when I told my story, the shock of seeing my marriage end online, the humiliation, the silence, the long road to peace, people listened. They weren't looking for perfection. They were looking for the truth. Afterwards, a young man approached me, maybe 25, shaking slightly. "I found out my fiancé was cheating through TikTok," he said quietly. "I thought I was crazy for hurting this much. Hearing you talk made me feel less alone." That moment hit harder than any apology ever could. For the first time, my pain had a purpose. So I kept showing up, not online, but in person. Small talks at community centers. Coffee chats with men who'd been blindsided. Women who'd been abandoned mid-narrative. I wasn't preaching forgiveness or revenge. I was teaching them the same lesson life had forced on me. You can't control how someone writes you out of their story, but you can choose how you rewrite your own. Funny thing is, I never planned to become an example. I just refused to stay broken. And somehow, that became enough. One evening, I got a message from someone unexpected. Not her, but Daniel. I messed everything up. She left me, too. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Karma doesn't need commentary. It just unfolds. Quietly. Inevitably. I closed my phone and looked around my apartment. Walls lined with photographs I'd taken, books I'd read, memories I'd made. None of it was curated for likes. Just lived. The man I was 16 months ago wouldn't recognize this version of me. Back then, I was chasing answers, desperate to be understood. Now, I'd learned that peace isn't found in closure. It's built through consistency, discipline, and compassion. Sometimes, I still think about her, not with anger, but with detachment. She was a chapter that taught me how fragile trust can be and how strong the human heart truly is. Without her betrayal, I might never have discovered my own worth. And that's the paradox of healing. The very person who breaks you becomes the reason you rebuild stronger. As the evening crowd filtered out, one of the organizers thanked me for coming. I smiled, shook her hand, and stepped into the cool night air. The city buzzed around me. Horns, laughter, music, life moving forward. And for the first time, I realized something. The story wasn't about how she left. It was about how I stayed kind, stayed grounded, stayed real, even when the world watched me fall apart. She announced our ending to go viral. But I lived my healing quietly, and that made it timeless. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.